Hello again, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Odyssey House Journals. I'm Randall Carlisle. Rachel Santizo is my co-host.
Good morning.
Dave Elliott is our guest. We are really one of the most watched and listened to podcasts dealing with addiction and recovery. And you can catch us anywhere for good podcasts, or if you want to watch us, you just Google Odyssey House Journals on YouTube, and you can see it. Did you happen to see what you have on your desk over there?
Oh my gosh. When did that happen?
That happened just recently. This podcast was voted the best wellness podcast by the readers of City Weekly, which for those of you outside of our state is a local. What do they come out every week?
Yeah,
right. And it's a free magazine, but hip people like us read it, right?
Old people.
So thank you for readers of City Weekly for voting us best podcast. You didn't even know that.
I had no idea. How delightful. Thank you. That's awesome.
See, this is obviously not staged because that's true surprise on Rachel's part.
True. I'm all blushy now.
We like to discuss the issues of addiction and recovery, hopefully encouraging other people to at least understand the issue and hopefully seek treatment if they're having issues. And that's why we invited Dave. Tell us, you're a recovering addict.
That's right. Yeah.
Tell us a little about your past. And I should say, I got to have discussions with Dave because he was in Odyssey House's transitional sober living, which happened to be right above our office there. And so he'd come down and we'd have deep discussions about everything. So I got to know you. So tell me about your past history, the addiction, and then finally the recovery.
Sure. Yeah. So I don't know how far back you want me to go, but
well, when you were a baby and you were using heroin.
That's right. Yeah. When I was I grew up in a home with an alcoholic father. My mom had to flee from him when I was 5 years old. And so didn't have a dad growing up, clung to every male figure that I could find around me. And some of them weren't great influences. There were stories of driving drunk, and those were like war stories that they were proud of.
Right.
Things like that. And so they would go to jail and they would do all these things that I thought were normal, So I didn't have any good role models that were close to me. And so I used to hang out with the rough crowd as a kid. These kids that would smoke weed and drink and, run from the cops when they were teenagers. That's what we did. It was normal for us. Growing up in California, there was I don't know if it's more prevalent there or not, but a lot of weed there. And so that's kind of, that was my introduction to party life, was going to parties on the weekends with my friends and dropping acid and all kinds of stuff. So, and I was about 13 years old when I started doing all that on a regular basis. At 15 years old, I moved out here to Utah. I had a sister, and she married a guy that had a mother that lived here. And so they came out here following her, and we followed them to visit one year. And that year was during the summer, so I was out of school and I ran around with all the cool kids. The first guy I met was a pot smoker, and so he was my favorite guy. And so my mom, asked me, "Do you want to move here? You like it here?" And I said, "Yeah, it's pretty cool. Totally different.
I found a pot smoking friend, so let's move here."
Absolutely. And it wasn't just the people that I was, drawn to, the friends around here that. Or even in California that really influenced me. My family, there's a big history of drug use and alcohol use in my family. I have two sisters that passed away from drug addiction.
Overdoses?
No, it was just a long life of using drugs off and on, mostly on. And they died about a month and a half apart from each other.
Whoa. That's trauma.
Yeah. And the following year is when I started doing meth and heroin. So that kind of jumped forward.
So what age would that have been?
That was 10 years ago. So I was about 42.
Okay.
How were you introduced? You're smoking weed this entire time, and then you used your sisters, which I'm sorry to hear.
Oh, thank you. So I kind of jumped ahead, but having a family that was doing drugs and drinking on a regular basis. At 19 years old, I'll back up a little bit. At 19 years old, I found myself getting sober. And I went to a meeting, and I had a brother-in-law that was going to meetings, and he was doing pretty good. And so I started going to meetings, and this is after a couple of different tries of getting sober on my own. I went to a meeting and started meeting people and got a sponsor and started going through the 12 steps in AA. And that worked for probably about 8 years. Met a gal in the program in AA. We got married, had some kids. But before we got married and had kids, I got to preface this by saying every relationship that I got into, I was dragging all my whole life's history of dysfunction into that relationship. And by the time I got to this woman, she got the worst of all that, The
worst of Dave.
That's right. And so, she was having a hard time getting close to me. And she broke up with me, and I kind of spiraled from there. Started going to therapy, and I started smoking weed again, and then stopped abruptly. And I don't know how I did it, but I just kind of knew that if I kept on that path, it'd be bad news. So we ended up getting married, had some kids, and in that time, I had a back injury. And because of that back injury, I went and saw a doctor, and that was about the time when the opioid epidemic started really taking hold here. And I got some pills from him, and life was good. I didn't have any worries. I liked what it did to me emotionally, and I didn't realize that was going on at the time. Even all the years of AA in me, I was still lying to myself, So I developed this pain pill addiction, and I want to say 5 years into that, things started drying up with the pain pills.
They became very expensive.
Yeah, and
docs weren't writing scripts.
Right, they weren't easy to get.
Yeah.
And I had a friend who said, "Hey, if you're sick, I've got something that'll take care of that."
That's
so
exactly what happened to me. Exactly.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Exact same story.
Yeah. And so at that point, I had already done meth and didn't know it. A friend of mine laid out a line of what I thought was cocaine. He says, "You want to try some coke?" And I said, "Sure." So I snorted this big line of what I thought was cocaine. And the next morning, his wife told me that was meth. And I couldn't believe I'd done meth. Anyway, so I thought, okay, I've already done meth. Why not jump into other things? Because I'm already this far along. And my friend offered me this, what I didn't know was heroin. He had a jar that had residue in it, and he put some water in there and splashed around. He says, "Drink this and it'll be fine." So I drank it and I passed out. And I woke up and I wasn't sick. And I thought, okay, I can't get pills anymore. I don't like meth. If I can get this and do it without using a needle, I'll be all right. I won't be that bad, right?
It's always comparatively, isn't it?
Right,
Yeah.
right.
How old are you?
You're doing IV drugs, but I'm only snorting it or smoking it or drinking it or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
How old are you at this time?
I was 41 or 42.
Wow.
And that was, the summer after my sisters had passed away. My sisters were hooked on pain pills and other things their whole lives. And so in the pain pill game, I don't know what else to call it, but people would trade pills, like if somebody would run out, I always knew that this guy would have some or that girl would have some. And so it was like, I would never run out. And my family, my sisters namely, were a big supplier for me, so once they died, I was kind of left on my own, and I wasn't used to people dying. I really hadn't experienced a whole lot of death up to that point. My mom had died years before, and then my sisters died, and it was just too much for me. I really had no idea how to process grief. I was angry and I was lost, and I sure missed him, and I still miss him today, you know? Anyway, so back to I did heroin the first time, and I woke up the next day and I thought, okay, now I'm the guy in my family who's done heroin and meth. And instead of stopping or asking for help, I thought, okay, the gloves are off. Let's just do this. And I just kind of went full force into it.
Off to the races.
Yeah.
Wow.
The first time I got arrested was 2013, and I was arrested for aggravated assault because I was chasing somebody with a golf club. So
for what reason?
So I went to meet my friend that was supplying me with dope, and he wouldn't sell to me. He was just like, I'm not giving you any, man. And I was angry because I was going through withdrawals, freaking out, and really angry. And the hotel employee saw me out in the parking lot. And so he came out and he's on the phone with the police. And so I grabbed my golf club out of the back of my truck and started chasing him.
Wow.
And next thing I know, the police are there and they're drawing their guns on me. And that's the first time I'd ever been arrested. So for the next 5 years, I was in and out of jail. Went to jail 13 times in 5 years. And the whole time, my family's just in disbelief. They're just like, come on, man. All you have to do is stop.
Easier said than done.
Yeah, and I couldn't stop. You know, I didn't know. I just didn't want to stop. I wasn't interested in that. And so I would get like 6 months sober here and there. And the funny thing about addicts and alcoholics, and especially this one, is every time I'm doing really good, I think I can get away with it again, you know? And that's what I did. I played that game. I would put up a good front for the whole family and everybody important in my life, and they believe me. And then I'd get high again. And I just kind of like take a long weekend and call in sick or whatever I had to do. And all these people just wanted me to stop. They just loved me, and they're all scratching their heads just watching me. And I can only imagine. I mean, we've had conversations since, the terror that they were going through and the fear and the worry.
So how did you get into Odyssey House?
So I was on AP&P on probation, and they picked me up. I was living out in Woods Cross, and I couldn't stop using meth. Because at some point I transitioned from heroin to meth. And I can't tell you exactly when or how or why, but it just, I did. And because of that, I started experiencing psychosis, and a lot of crazy things started happening. Anyways, the guy I was living with was my boss, and I was just renting a room from him, and he knew my situation, and you know, he said, "Look, I need the number to your probation officer," and I wouldn't give it to him.
Yeah, I don't blame you. Yeah.
So, anyways, he got in touch with my probation officer, and my probation officer came and picked me up, put me in jail, and trying to just kind of put together the time frame of events. I went to jail, went in front of the judge, and the judge said, "Look, you've violated probation. It's obvious to us you don't want to be sober or do the right thing. So we're going to give you some time to think about this." And so I sat in jail for a couple of weeks, and I signed up for CATS in jail, which is, for those of you who don't know, that's treatment in jail pretty much. And I'd been through it before, so I was familiar with it. And again, it was just to kind of get the judge off my butt, you know?
Right. You didn't really want it.
No.
Just.
But I'm real good at manipulation when it comes to situations like that. I can always think of how to get out of doing things, right?
Oh, yeah.
That describes almost every addict in the world.
Right.
I'm good at manipulation. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I got into cats. I did life skills also. And while I was doing life skills, I went and saw the judge again. The judge said, okay, if you do life skills and cats, we'll let you go. We'll get you out early, and you'll be on probation again. So that's what I did. I graduated cats, and right from cats, I went into Odyssey House because that was the agreement I made with them, with the judge. Went into Odyssey House, and the first day I was there, I just remember thinking, this place is nothing but straight chaos, man. I don't know how these people live here, you know, because you walk in and it's just, there's people talking a million miles a minute and talking over each other, and people walking down the halls, going back and forth. You don't know what's going on. So I thought, okay, Dave, you're going to figure this one out, and you're going to get to the top of this place, and you're going to get out and you're going to get off probation. Then you can do what you want. Right. I still wasn't done. So I went through Odyssey House, and I voyaged out and graduated, got off probation, terminated successfully early. And I started trying to work things out with my ex-wife and my kids, because that's really all I wanted. I just wanted to be back home. And I thought the best way to do that is to go through all this stuff and graduate and get off probation and prove to them that I was doing fine. Right. So I went to my ex-wife and I said, look, I want to give it another shot. And she said, I don't think that's a good idea. And yet another resentment popped up. And I thought, I did all this for you guys. How could you tell me no? And so instead of accepting that decision, I thought, okay, well, I'm gonna hurt her. And that's the part of me that I don't understand.
Hurt her by using or hurt her physically?
No, not physically. I've never done that. But so here's what I did. I decided to start dating other women and make sure she knew about it. Right.
Jeez.
And there was one in particular that I dated that really hurt her. And the whole time I was chuckling inside. I don't know what the seditious intent that I have is sometimes, but it was there. That relationship didn't work out. It lasted about 7 months, and I stayed sober through all this. But what ended up happening was I got high again, and it was a 9-day relapse on meth. And I was terrified. I was living with a friend who I was in a band with, and he was like the DJ at my wedding. And so we went back a ways, and he saw my walk and saw that I was doing better. And he gave me a room in his house at a really discounted rate, and so I could pay off some things. And I was doing really well. And one day I couldn't take the pain anymore, and I needed that release from the pain. And so I got high. And I was up all night, of course, because that's what happens with meth. Yeah. And I was hearing things. The psychosis kicked in almost immediately. I don't know what's going on with meth these days, but it's different. It's different from when it was before. And every time I do it, I go into psychosis immediately.
And let me stop you on that, because you do post on Facebook occasionally, right. And I'm on Facebook, and this is interesting, Rachel. Is I'll read his posts, and by reading his posts, I can tell whether he's high or whether he's sober and doing well, because your posts on Facebook when you're high on meth are just nasty. They're negative as hell. They're dark. They're gloomy.
Yeah.
And they're attacking other people. And it's really weird to see. I mean, so, and even though I didn't talk to you or anything saying what's going on, I could tell.
Right.
Yeah,
I've had people suggest that I delete my account, but I am, I am who I am.
Yeah.
And I've learned that all of me. I either have to accept all of who I am, or I'm not going to be in acceptance at all, right? I got to be comfortable in my own skin no matter where I'm at.
I think it's important too to see what it does to us,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And so I think it can be a motivating factor as well if you allow it to be, or you want it to be.
Yeah.
Well, and he recognizes that the psychosis kicks in. So
right.
You know.
Yeah. So yeah, the psychosis kicked in, and within 24 hours, my friend was kicking me out of the house. He's like, I can't have you here, man. There's no way. So I moved out of there, moved in with another addict who had a spot for me, but I didn't realize it was a dope house.
Jeez.
So I'm there, and I play music, and I've got some kind of expensive equipment. And so I had all this equipment with me, and I'm just like ultra paranoid to begin with. And I've got my equipment there and all these people I don't know, and I'm just losing it. I'm hearing things outside that aren't there. I'm making up stories about everything, just living the psychosis. And I had a good friend of mine who saw my post on Facebook and reached out to me. And he said, listen, man, I can tell you need somewhere safe to be. We have a room over here. Why don't you come over here? And I moved in with him and the guy that owns the house, who has 25 years sober.
Wow.
And I've known him, like I've been around going to meetings for so long that I saw that guy get sober when I was in meetings. And to be able to go to a place that was safe is exactly what I needed. So I moved in there, and that was July 14th of 2020. And I've been sober ever since.
Wow.
Congrats.
Thanks.
Yeah. And you have a steady, good job now.
Yeah. So when I moved in there, I was door dashing full time, which is a real bad idea for a guy like me. I need the constant threat of being fired for some reason. I don't know what it is. But yeah, I mean, I realized early on when I was living there that I needed a regular job. So I went and got a job working in a warehouse where I didn't have to interact with the public, which is good for me at that point because I was still crazy. Started seeing my therapist, Jacob, here at Odyssey House again. Yeah, so I was seeing him once a week for a while, and then every couple of weeks, and it just kind of tapered off. Didn't want to go back to meetings. I was ashamed. I was afraid of all the judgment. And then one day I just thought, just go to a meeting, Dave. This is your home. This is where people love you. Just go beyond your own BS in your head and go. And so that's what I did. I started going to meetings again. And then it occurred to me that the whole time that I had been going to meetings throughout my life, I never got a sponsee. I never sponsored anybody. I never helped anybody else. It was always about me. And that's my problem is it's always about me. You know, I don't know how to go outside of being about me and being there for somebody else truly, you know. So I decided to start sponsoring people. And I don't know if I've helped anybody, but I'm still sober. And I think that's the point of sponsorship. And I guess that's the selfish part of me. The selfish part of recovery is that it's helping me. I've had a couple of guys that I've sponsored, a couple of them have relapsed. And you know, I have another sponsee now. He's new in recovery. And I'm just doing what I've been told because my own best thinking got me to jail, having to go to Odyssey House, which was a great blessing. But, you know, I'm starting to do the things that were suggested 30 years ago to me. It's only taken me that long.
Slow learner, right?
That's right.
Yeah. What you learned.
That's right.
I was a functional alcoholic for 40 years before something kicked in. So how long were you in addiction?
About 10 years.
Yeah. See, we're all slow learners if you think about it.
It's true.
You know? And in my opinion, life is so much better sober.
Yeah.
How about you?
Absolutely. You know, and especially this time around, there was somebody who told me one day, and I had to be open to hear this from this person. They said, "You really like playing the victim, don't you, Dave?" And I heard that message.
Yeah.
I don't know why I didn't get defensive. I don't know why I didn't try to justify how it was okay to be a victim, but I heard that.
If you were on meth, you would have been very defensive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I heard that message, and it came from a place of love, you know?
Yeah.
And I realized that today. And so I've taken that to heart and tried to make sure that everything I post on Facebook is not a victim stance.
Yeah.
Right. Because I see it today in others, and it's so obvious now.
Mm.
And I don't tell them that they're playing the victim. I just look and go, okay, that's part of me that I have acknowledged and moved on from. And the way I don't do that anymore is I don't complain as much. I mean, we still hate traffic, and there's people in our life that we're not fond of, I guess. But I really try not to complain. If there's a problem in my life, I try to find the solution quicker than I used to.
Congratulations on your recovery.
Thank you.
Believe it or not, we're out of time.
Yeah.
So thank you, Dave, for sharing. I'd like to think your experience will help others going through the same thing, because we all have gone through this.
When you were talking, you're like, you think that, like that selfishness, and I'm like, no, actually you found purpose.
That's true.
Yeah.
You have found purpose. And so I'm grateful that you've surrendered to find your purpose, my friend.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks for being here. Good to see you again.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
And I'll keep watching Facebook posts, and
Yeah.
I'll know if something bad goes on.
That's right. And you have my number now, so you can give me a call and say, what are you doing, man?
Yeah. And thank you for watching another edition of Odyssey House Journals. And another quick reminder that you can hear us every Saturday and Sunday morning on KKAT 860 AM at 10 a.m. So it's nice to have them join our family and spread the word even more. So thank you for watching another edition of Odyssey House Journals.